This video contains prep material for the math portion of the NAT exams. The topic covered in this review are ratio and proportions, percentages, fractions, decimals, little bit of military time, Roman numerals, and a little bit of basic algebra. You always can still pass the math portion of the test without knowing much algebra. Also, I will cover the order of operations, including addition, subtraction, multiplication, and division. And there will be quite a bit of measurement conversion questions. But if you ask me what topic should I focus on the most, I will tell you ratios and proportions, because these skills are critical in your field. Also working with the small numbers and working with fractions, being able to reduce fractions is actually as important. So you're going to notice there is quite a bit of ratios and proportions in this review. The review is very comprehensive. It touches on almost all the topics that you would expect to see in the on the NAT exam. So I'm going to start with number one and go over the questions one by one. Question one, reduce 680 over 5,000 to simplest term. You notice that both of them and the numerator and denominator end with the 0, so you can reduce by 10. If you reduce by 10, that will give you 68 over 500. Now you notice that both the numerator and denominator are even, so you can reduce by 2. And that will give you 34 over 250. We still have two even number. We can reduce by 2 one more time, and that should give me 17 over 125. Oops, right here. Change 0.0047 to a fraction. How do you write a decimal as a fraction? So 0.0047, here's what you can do. If you need to move the decimal point 4 digits to the right in order to get rid of the decimal. So if I move it 4 digits to the right, it will be 47. Well, since I moved it 4 digits, I have to put 1 with 4 zeros there. So that would be 47 over 10,000. If you have a fraction like, for example, 0.305, and you need to change it, a decimal like 0.305, change it to a decimal, it will be, change it to a fraction, it will be 305 divided by 1,000. Why 3 zeros here? Because there are 3 decimal places. You also can, as you can see, you can divide by 5 here. So that's going to give you 61 over 200. Now 3 is the algebra question. If x over 4 minus 2 equals 3, then what would x be? In order to solve this one, we need to isolate the x. So if I add 2 to both sides, I get x over 4 equals 5. Now we need x alone. I have x divided by 4. To undo the division, you do multiplication. So 4 times, and that will give you x equals 20. Number 4. A nurse is to give a liquid medicine 4 times a day. The morning dose is 3/16. The noon dose is 1/2 ounce. The afternoon dose is 3/8. And the evening dose is 1/4. The nurse has 1 ounce of medicine available. How much more is needed? Well, in order to figure out how much more is needed, you need to add them up. If I add them up, I need the common denominator, which is what? 16. So there will be 3 over 16. If I make this 16, I need to multiply the 2 by 8. So this will be 8. To make the 8 a 16, you need to multiply by 2. So that will be a 6. And to make the 4 a 16, a 4. So that will be 3 plus 8, 11, plus 6, 17, plus 4, 21 over 16. Anytime you get a fraction that is improper, change it to a mixed. And if you change this one to a mixed number, it will be 1 and 5 over 16. Well, the nurse has 1 ounce of medicine available. So how much more does she need? You subtract the 1 from 1 and 5/16, and you'll notice that the answer will be 5/16 of an ounce. Number 5, a factory worker earns $12.50 an hour. His employer is giving him an increase of $5 per hour due to his good work. What's the percent increase? Okay, you can use this formula, which is the rate equals amount divided by base, to solve any percent problem. The rate is the percent. A is the amount of, if it was increase, it would be amount of increase, decrease, amount of decrease, and B is the base, is the original amount. So if we are to apply this formula here, you notice that the base is the original salary was $12.50 an hour. The amount of increase is 5. So if you divide the two, you'll get 0.40. But he's asking you to find a percent, so you need to change 0.40 to a percent. To change a decimal to a percent, guys, you just multiply by 100%, or you can move the decimal point 2 digits to the right, so it will be 40%. Next question for 6. A 5-year-old child with congenital heart disorder is admitted with congestive heart failure. Lanoxin 0.30 milligram is ordered for the child. The bottle of Lanoxin contains 0.20 milligram of Lanoxin in 4 milliliter of solution. Which of the following amounts should the nurse administer to the child? Okay, we know that the bottle contains 0.20 milligram of medicine in 4 milliliter of solution. So you do 0.1 milligram and how much? 4 milliliter. The doctor orders 0.30 milligram. It makes sense to place milligram under milligram, and this is the number that we want. Now we're talking about the proportions. Okay, how do I find this? I'm gonna show you an easy way, guys. It's just the cross multiplication. So in order to find this value here, you multiply 0.30 times 4, and then you divide by 0.20. And that should give you 6 milliliter. So this is what we call proportion, solving a proportion. Number 7, a patient requires a 25% decrease in the dosage of his medication. His current dosage is 250. What will his dosage be after the decrease? You can find the amount of decrease, which is 25% of something. It has to be of the original, always 250. You can, a calculator, guys, will pop up, I believe, on every single question, but it is going to be a basic calculator. It will do one operation at the time. So just be very careful when you use a calculator. You can use it one operation at the time. So this is 62.5. And then we need to figure out what the dosage will be after the decrease. A decrease means subtraction, so it will be 250 minus 62.5, which is 187.5. Next question. A study about anorexia was conducted on 100 patients. Within that patient population, 70% were women. So 100 patients. I would start taking notes as soon as I read the question, so you don't have to go back and read again and take notes. So there are 70 women, so we know there are 30 men. And 20% of the men were overweight. How many people in the study were not overweight? Well, let's figure out how many were overweight. So it's 20% of the men, and how many men? 30. So it's 20% of. Of in mathematics means multiplication. So that's multiplication. So 6 men overweight. Well, if 6 overweight and there are 30 of them, so how many are not overweight? Would be 24. 30 minus 6. There you go. Next question. For a recipe, there are 5 eggs needed for every 4 pounds of cake needed. How many pounds of cake can be made if there are 42 eggs? Proportion, guys. 5 eggs, 4 pounds. 42 eggs, question mark, or you can call it X if you like. So how are we going to find X? Just like I did before. X is going to be 42 times 4 divided by 5, and that will be 33.6 pounds. All right. Number 10. A patient receives 250 grams of medication over 24 hours. If she's given 4 equal doses of medication over this time, how many grams of medication are in each dose? Since we know the total over 4 equal doses and we want to know what each dose is, we need to do division. But in order to divide, you need to change the mix the numeral to improper. So how do I change 2 and 2/5 to improper? You multiply 5 by 2. 10 plus 2 is 12 over 5. And then you divide it by 4. Let's make it 4 over 1. That will be 12 over 5. Okay, in order to divide the fractions, you multiply by the reciprocal of the second fraction, so it's 1 over 4. And if you reduce this 1 by 3, the 12 by 4, and the 4 by 4, you will get 3 over 5, and that is the answer. Number 11. Which of the following is equivalent to 0.00025? He's asking you to change this decimal to a percent. To change a decimal to a percent, you multiply by 100 or move the decimal point 2 digits to the right. If I move the decimal point 2 digits to the right, I will be here, right here. So it will be 0.025%. I will be right there. All right, so let's go to the next page. 12. A clinic has enough flu vaccine this season to vaccinate 80% of its 30% staff. How many staff members cannot be vaccinated? So if 80% can be vaccinated, that means 20% cannot be. So let's find the 20% of 30. 20% is 0.2. Of is multiplication times 30, which is what? 6. So the answer is 6. Number 13. A dosage of a certain medication is 12 cc per 100 pounds. What's the dosage for a patient who weighs 225 pounds? Proportion, guys. 225 pounds. And makes sense the question mark to be under cc because we need the dosage for this person. If you call it X, how do I find X? So X will be 12 times cross multiplication, 225 divided by 100, and that should be 27. Definitely, you will be able to use a calculator to do those multiplications. Number 14, Joe makes $30 an hour and Tim makes $36 an hour. How many hours more than Tim must Joe work to earn the same amount Tim makes in 5 hours? Well, if Tim works 5 hours, how much does he make? He makes 5 times 36, which is $180. Joe makes $30. How many hours does he need to make in order to make 180? I think he needs to make to work 6 hours because 6 times 30 is 180. So he needs to work 1 more hour. As you can see, difference between 5 and 6. Next question. There are 8,400 marbles in a jar. Approximately 34% are green, 16% are red, and the rest are yellow. How many yellow marbles are there? Well, if 34% are green and 16% are red, so 50% are green and red. So the other 50% will be yellow. So we just do 50% of 8,400. Remember, of means multiplication. 50% means a half times 8,400. And what's half of 8,400 is 4,200. That's the question. 16. At the comic book store, Robert purchased 2 comic books for $365. If he paid with $20 bill, how much change did he receive? Okay. So he paid $365 times 2, which is $7.30. So how much did he receive? You subtract. And $20 minus 730 is $12.70. How many yards, number 17, how many yards are in 2 miles? Okay. In 2 miles. First of all, he says 1 mile is 5,280 foot. We need to change miles to feet first. Remember, if you go from one unit to change from one large unit to a smaller unit, you multiply. If you go from a small unit to a larger unit, you divide. Since we're going from miles to feet, we need to multiply. So 2 times 5,280 feet. That's going to give me 10,560 feet. But that's not what he wants. He wants us to change to yards. Well, probably this information you might be provided with, but probably you will not be provided with the information that 1 yard is 3 feet. We assume that this is common knowledge. Now I change feet to yards. We're going from small to large, so we need to divide. So 10,560 divided by 3 is 3,520 yards. 18. A rat can finish a maze in about 12 minutes. If a small backpack is put on the rat so it reduces its speed by 50%, how much longer will it take a rat to finish the maze? If you reduce the speed by half, you're gonna need, double the time. For example, guys, if it takes you 1 hour to travel 40 miles, let's say from school to home, and if you reduce your speed to 20 miles per hour, you're going to need 2 hours because you're going to double the time. It's the same thing. So how much longer will it take the rat to finish the maze? It's going to take another 12 minutes. With a certain nursing program, 19, 25% of the class wanted to work with infants, 60% of the class wanted to work with elderly, 10% of the class wanted to assist general practitioner and private practices, and the rest were undecided. What fraction of the class wanted to work with the elderly? They say 60%. You need to change the percent to a fraction. 60% by definition means 60 over 100. But you always have to reduce your answer to the lowest terms. So what is 60% over 100 reduced by 10? 6 over 10 reduced by 2, 3 over 5. That's the answer, 3 over 5 right here. Go to the next page. Convert 26 degrees Celsius to Fahrenheit using the formula F equals. Yeah, you might be provided with the formula here because I assume not all people know this formula. So you just plug in here. F is 9 over 5 times 26 plus 32. Since you're doing this one operation at the time, if I were you guys, I'll just divide 9 by 5 first. So you get 1.8. Then you multiply by 26, and whatever answer you get, you add it to 32. So that will be 1.8 times 26, 46.8 plus 32, which is 76, 78.8. Here you go. 21. A boy turned on his radio at 5:30 p.m. on Friday night while he was packing for a weekend trip. He forgot to switch it off. Okay, so it played the whole time he was gone. The boy finally turned it off on Sunday night at 8:15. How long was the radio playing? So let's count. From Friday 5:30 p.m. to Saturday 5:30 p.m., that's 1 day. And Saturday to Sunday, that's another day. So we got 2 days. To Sunday 5:30 p.m. Now we have 5:30 to 6:30 p.m. 1 hour, 6:30 p.m. to 7:30 p.m. another 1 hour. So that's 2 days, 2 hours. Now we have 7:30 to 8:45, 15. It will be what? 45 minutes. So it will be 1 day, 2 days, 2 hours, and 45 minutes. 22. A nurse is working at a medical clinic, earns 18.81 per hour. The nurse works 3 8-hour shifts and 1 12-hour shift every week. She is paid weekly. Weekly deductions are, so let's see, so she works 8 times 3, 24 hours plus 12. She works 36 hours. Okay. Her deduction are federal tax 102.80, state tax, federal insurance, family health insurance. What's the nurse take home? So we're gonna do, first of all, figure out how much she gets paid, 36 times 18.81. And once you figure this out, guys, $677.16. I think you get paid a lot more than this. So it will be 677.16 minus. Now you have to minus all those numbers. 102 because they are deductions. Minus 24.58. You're doing one operation at the time, and then minus 18.13, and then minus 48.15. So you do 677.16 minus 02.80. The answer you get, you minus the next one, and so on and so forth. And the answer is 403.50. 23. There are 48 students studying foreign language at a community college. If the only 2 foreign language offered are French and Spanish, and 28 students are studying French, which of the following represents the ratio of students studying Spanish to the total number of foreign language students? So we know 28 are studying French, so that means 20 out of the 48 are studying Spanish. He wants the ratio of students studying Spanish to the total 48. Reduce it. You always have to reduce your answer. If reduced by 4, you get a 5, and by 4, you get 12. So the answer should be 5/12. 24, express 5046 over 10,000 as a decimal. When you divide by 10,000, you have 4 zeros. You have to move the decimal point 4 digits to the left. So your answer will be 0.45046. 25. If the average woman burns 8.2 calories per minute while riding a bicycle, how many calories will she burn if she rides for 35 minutes? Proportion. 8.2 cal in 1 minute. In 35 minutes, you should put the 35 minutes under the minutes, and this is a question mark. How would you do this? You do x equals cross multiplication times 8.2 divided by 1. And that will give me 287 calories. All right. Next, I'm gonna go to 26. If Muhammad earns $3,500 a month and cannot spend more than 30% of his monthly income on rent, what's the highest monthly rent that he can afford? So just do 30% of 3,500. Remember, of means multiplication again. So if you do the multiplication, you get 1,050. That's the answer. Express 5,400th as a percent. 100th, guys, means out of 100 means a percent. So 5,400th means 54%. So I'll write this here. Means out of 100. 1.6% of 18 equals. Okay, in order to do calculations, you need to change the percent to a decimal. So what is 1%, 6%? You have to move the decimal 2 digits to the left. So it will be 0.016 times 18. And you can use the calculator that pops up to do the math here. I got 0.288. Number 29. The basal metabolic rate, BMR, is the rate at which your body uses calories. The BMR for a man in his 20s is about 1,700 calories per day. If 204 of those calories should come from protein, what percent of calories come from protein? So he wants a rate. Remember, I put this formula earlier, rate equals A over B. Okay, what is the base here? It's 1700, and this is 204. If you divide 204 by 1700, you get 0.12, but you need to change it to a percent. So you move the decimal point 2 digits to the right, it will be 12%. Algebra again. Quantity 5 times the quantity x plus 12 is 3x plus 104, solve for x. Use the distributive property here. So there will be 5x plus 60 equals 3x plus 104. You need the x's alone, minus 2x, minus 2x. So you get 3x plus 60 equals, oh, sorry, I should have subtracted 3x here. So 2x. 2x plus 60 is 104. Now we need to isolate the 2x, so subtract 60 from both sides. And finally, you get 2x is 44. Divide by 2, you get x is 22. 31. If the sales tax on a $400 item is 24, what's the sales tax rate? Again, same formula. I would use it, A over B. Okay, A is the amount of tax, and B is the base, which is 400. And if you do this, you will get 0.06. And change it to a percent, it will be 6%. 32. In half of migraine sufferers, a certain drug reduces the number of migraines by 50%. So in half of people who suffer from migraines, there's a drug that helps 50% of them. Assuming all migraine sufferers experience the same number of migraines, what percentage of all migraines can be eliminated by this drug? So it's half of a half. Half benefit of it, and 50% is a half, it's another half. So it is a quarter. And what is a quarter as a percent, guys? If you divide 1 by 4, you could get 0.25, which is 25%. Or you could have done 50% of 50%. It's the same thing. 33. Lance makes $11.35 an hour and earns time and a half pay for every hour over 40. If he works 47 hours, how much will his paycheck be? So for the first 40 hours, we're gonna pay him $11.35. But for the remaining 7 over 40, he's gonna get 1.5 time. 1.5 time means you multiply 7 by 1.5, and then you do 11.35. If you do the math, guys, here, it will be 573.18. And how do you do the math? You do this first, then you do 7 times 1.5, and the answer you multiply by 11.35, and then you add the two answers. Again, you're not gonna have a sophisticated calculator that does all of this in one step. That won't happen. 15 cc dosage must be increased by 20%. What's the new dosage? So let's figure out the 20% of 15. 20%, guys, is 0.20 times 15, which is 3. So that we need to up it by 3. So that will be what? 15 plus 3, because he wants the new dosage, not how much is the increase. If the question was how much is the increase, it will be 3, but he wants the new dose. 35. Monica bought 14 pitches at a grocery store for $5.88. So 14p for $5.88. How many could she buy for $4.62? I put the dollar under the dollar, and this is the X, the unknown. Okay, in order to do this, using cross multiplication again, it's gonna be 14 times 4.62 divided by 5.88. Let me do the math here. 14 times 4.62, do it one step at a time, so you get 64.68, and now divided by 5.88. 11. So the answer is 11. Okay, let's go to the next one. 36. If you gain 4% of your original weight of 168, what would you now weigh? Okay, figure out the 4%, which is 0.04 times 168. And that's gonna be 6.72. And to figure out your new weight, you just add, because it's an increase. For increase, you add. For decrease, you subtract. That will be 174.72. Which number is in the thousands place in 3 to 1.5983? After the decimal, the next one is the 10th, the next is the 100th, and 8 is the thousandth, so it must be the 8. Reduce 70 over 105 to its lowest terms. Divide by 5. They both end with 0 and 5, so we can divide by 5. That's a 14, and that's what, 21. Can we reduce it? We reduce by 7. 2 over 3. 12 is what percent of 240? I'm going to show you how to do this by translating. 12 is, in mathematics, it means equal. What percent? This is the unknown. Let's give it a name, n. Of means multiplication times 240. So I have n times 240 equals 12. In order to find n, I need to divide by 240. So that will give me n equals 0.05. But he says what a percent, so you need to change this to a percent. So multiply by 100%, and that will give you 5%. Next. Dr. Baker needs 4 meters of plaster bandage to make a cast for a broken wrist. One roll of bandage is 250 centimeters long. How many rolls of bandage will she need? Well, first of all, you need to change one unit to the other. So let's change centimeter to meter. To change 1 meter is 100 centimeters. So to change centimeter to meter, you need to divide by 100. So it will be 250 divided by 100. That will be 2.5 meters. Well, if the roll is 2.5 meters and you need 4 meters, so you need to buy 2 rolls. It will be 5. You'll have a little bit extra, but you need 2 rolls. Prescription, hydromorphone 3 milligram every 1 hour. You have a dose of 0.2 milliliter ready in a syringe. The label in the syringe reads hydromorphone 10 milligram per milliliter. So 10 milligram of medicine and 1 milliliter. You need to give a patient dose of 3 milligram if he's experienced pain. Does the amount in the syringe correspond to the dosage prescribed? So let's see if we have enough medicine. Let's see how much should we administer. So we need 3 milligram. Let's figure out how many milliliter is this, X. So cross multiplication, guys, it will be 3 times 1 divided by 10, which is 0.3 milliliter. So actually we have 0.2, so we don't have enough. So it should be C. We don't have enough, it should be 0.3. Next. 42, Dawn has 20% off one shirt coupon at her favorite store. If she buys 3 shirts at $29.99 each and uses her coupon, how much will her total bill be? Round to the nearest 100. Well, let's make it $30 here. If she get 20% discount on $30, I'm just gonna do it 30. So it's gonna be $6 discount. So she's gonna pay $24 for the first shirt, but she doesn't get discount on the other ones. So you got another 30 and another 30. So her total bill, guys, if you add them up, is gonna be 84. Which answer is the closest to 84? It looks like this one, 83.97. If a patient is prescribed 25 milliliter of amoxicillin 5 times a day for 10 weeks, but only takes 8.5 weeks, how many doses does he have left over? If he was supposed to take it for 10 weeks and he only took it for 8.5, so he missed 1.5 weeks. How many days in a week? 7 days. And how many times was he supposed to take it? 5 times. So that's how many times did he miss. So it will be 52.5 if you do the multiplication. Subtract. You can subtract using calculator or you can do it manually. I'll do it manually here by hand. Dot, decimal point under the decimal point. That's very important. Probably that's why I put this question there. 5 minus 5 is 0. 4 minus 6, that doesn't work, so we need to borrow 1 here. So that will be 1 and that will be 14. 14 minus 6 is 8. Now 1 minus 8, 1 minus 8 doesn't work, so we need to borrow 1. So 11. 11 minus 8 is 3. And 10, so that will become a 0 right here. And 10 minus 7 is 3, 33.80. All right, and that's right here. Next question. There's over 60 questions, I believe, in this handout. 45. What number would you multiply 5 by to get an answer of 1? You always, if you multiply by the reciprocal of a number, you get 1. So 5 over 1, what's the reciprocal of it? 1 over 5, that would be the answer. If they give you 3/4, you do 4 over 3. You just do the reciprocal. How many cubic centimeters are there in 176 milliliter? 1 milliliter, guys, keep that in mind, is 1 cc. 1 cc is that much. If you want me to sketch a cc, take that. So if you try fill this with water, that will be a 1 cc here. So 176 milliliter is exactly 176 cc. How many milliliters are there in 0.0228 liters? You might need to know this by heart, guys. You might not be provided with this information. So 1 liter is 1,000 milliliter. In order to go from liter to milliliter, you multiply. So it will be 0.0228 times 1,000, which is 222.8, I'm sorry, milliliter. Okay, number 48, convert 0.0245 to a fraction in simplest form. Okay, first of all, let's convert it to a fraction. As I did before, how many decimals I have? 1, 2, 3, 4 places, so divide by 10,000 to 45. Okay, I can divide by 5. Both of them go by 5. And that should give me 49 over 2,000. I don't think I can divide it anymore, so that's the answer. 49. Evaluate x cubed minus 3y. This is algebra when x is 4 and y is 7. So just replace x by 4 minus 3 times 7. You have to do the exponents first. 4 times 4, 16 times 4, 64. And then you have to do the multiplication, 21. So that will be 43. 50. How many millimeters are there in 0.37 meters? Well, 1 meter is 1,000 millimeter. So to go from meter to millimeter, you multiply times 1,000, which is 370 millimeter. These are the answers to the multiple choice questions. So we're gonna continue with 51 now. A nurse schedule is written in military time and shows their shift is from 1600 to 0045. When will they get off work? You know, 0045 is right after midnight, so it's going to be a little bit after midnight. So you need to know the difference between military time and PM and AM time. 52. The physician ordered codeine 60 milligram and 650 milligram of aspirin. Each codeine tablet contains 15 milligram of codeine. Each aspirin contains 325 milligram of aspirin. Which of the following should the nurse administer? Okay, 60 milligram, each one is 15, so we need 4. and 650 milligram of aspirin. Each one contains 325. We need 2. So it's 4-2 combination. That will be C. What is 70% of 165? Just do 0.70 of is multiplication and multiply, and you should get 115.5. How many millimeters are there in 0.054 meters? 1 meter is 1,000 millimeter. To go from meter to millimeter, you need to multiply. And that will be 54 millimeter. 55. Convert the following military time to regular time, 19, 17, 52. This is in military time because it goes over 12 here and there is no AM, PM. If it is more than 12, guys, you have PM hours. So here's what you do. It's very simple. Just subtract 12 from 19. So that will give you 17 PM. 56. How many centimeters are there in 3.25 feet? You see here, I provide you 1 foot is 30 centimeters because this is not a common knowledge. To go from feet to centimeter, we multiply because a foot is bigger than the centimeter. So it will be 3.25 times 30, and that will be 97.5 centimeter. What is 0.85 times 0.65? If you want to do it by hand, we can do that. You don't need to worry about the decimals now. Just put it without the decimal and let's do the multiplication. 5 times 5 is 25. 5 times 8, 40, and 2 is what? 42. And now put a 0 here. 6 times 5 is 30. 6 times 8 is 48, and 3 is what? 51. And then add 5, 2, 5, 5. Okay. Now, we need 4 decimal places because I have 2 decimals there and 2 decimals here. So 1, 2, 3, 4, it's going to be 0.5525. There should be another 5 here. 58. 40% of general hospital medical technologists are women. If there are 80 female medical technologists, how many medical technologists are male? Okay, so here's how you can figure this out. 40% are 80 females. Well, if 40% are female, you guys, you know 60% will be male. We need to figure this out. Use a cross multiplication. So X will be 60 times 80 divided by 40. And if you do the math, you will get 4,800 divided by 40. It's going to give you 120. You can do it this way. Cross multiplication, proportion. 33% of what number is 132? Okay, I'm going to translate this one. 33% means 0.33. Of means multiplication. What number, let's call it n, is in mathematics is equal 132. You need n, so divide by 0.33, divide by 0.33, that will give you n equals 400 if you do the division. 60. Convert 0.125 into a fraction in simplest form. Okay, this is 125 divided by 1,000. Why 1,000? Because I have 3 decimal places here. We need to reduce it. I would reduce by 5 first. So 25 over 200. Then I would reduce by 5 again. 5 over 40. Oh, I can reduce by 5 again. 1 over 8. And that's the answer. Which number is represented by the Roman numerals? You might have Roman numerals, probably 1 or 2. You need to understand that this stands for 1, V stands for 5, X stands for 10, and there is the 50 and 100, etc. But you also need to know that if the larger number comes before the smaller number, you add. But if they reverse that, you would have to subtract. So in this case, it's going to be a 10, a 5, and a 1. And if I add them up, I get 26. But let me give you this example here. This one. That will be a 10. We still have large 10. Then you see the 1 comes before the 5, so that will be a 4 here. So that will be a 24. Just Google Roman numerals if you need some help, and view it just for a few minutes before you take the actual test, or the night before you take the test, just to have an idea about Roman numerals. They're not difficult at all. 62, around 5.784 to the nearest hundredth. 100th is 2 digits up to here. Since this is less than 5, so it will be 5.78. Which of the following is correct? Is 9 over 15 equals 3 over 4? Well, actually not. Why? Because if I reduce by 3, I get 3. If I reduce by 3, I get 5, but it says 4 here. 12 over 15 is 4 over 5. Yes. If I reduce by 3, I get 4. I reduce by 3, I get 5. Multiply. And let me show you how to use the calculator for this one. 0.67 times 0.09. Just be careful. So it will be 0.0603 right here. Read it carefully. Down syndrome occurs in about 1 in 1,500 children when the mothers are in their 20s. About what percentage of all children born to mothers in their 20s are likely to have Down syndrome? So he says 1 in 1,500. So 1 divided by 1,500. Okay, what would that be? But then I need to change it to a percent. So I multiply by 100. So it will be 0.067%. Add 66, 3 7/10 and 5 1/3. If you like, I can do this. I'll do the fractions together and the whole numbers together. So let's do them separately. We need a common denominator. That's 30. So you need to multiply by 3 here. It will be 21. And you need to multiply by 10 there. So it will be a 10. So I got 31 over 30. But if it is an improper fraction, change it to a mixed number. So how many 30s are there in 31? 1 and 1 over 30. And 3 plus 5 is 8. Now we need to add these two. 8 and 1 and 1/30th will be total 9 and 1/30th. There you go. Subtract 3 and 3/10 minus 2 and 7/8. Okay, you can, let me show you another way to do that. You can change this to improper. 10 times 3, 30, plus 3, 33 over 10. And 8 times 2, 16, plus 7 is 23 over 8. Now we need a common denominator. What would be a common denominator here? For 10 and 8, 40 is good. So you need to multiply by 4 here. That's 132. And I need to multiply by 5. That's 115. So that will be 17 over 40. Here we go. Solve for x. Proportions again. I have 7 over x equals 3 over 8 times 15. Okay, cross multiplication like this. So that will be 3 over 8 times x equals 105. 7 times 15 is 105. But I need x. If you guys have a 3 over 8, to get rid of 3 over 8, multiply by the reciprocal. So it will be 8 over 3 times 3 over 8 x. But whatever you do on one side, you have to do on the other side. 8 over 3. Look, 8 and 8 cancel out, 3 and 3 cancel out, and x is, if you do 105 times 8 and divide by 3, you get 280. 69. There are 2,000 books at the library that are categorized as children's book and fiction books. If 32% of the books are fiction, how many books are children books? Well, if 32% are fiction, the rest are children. So subtract from 100%. It will be 68%. Okay, so do 0.68 times 20,000. And if you do the multiplication, it will be 13,600 books. 70. Cindy eats 7/8 of her dinner. Jeff eats 80% of his dinner. Who ate more? So we can change 7/8 to a percent and see who has the higher percentage. So what's 7/8, guys? Just use your calculator. 0.875. Change it to a percent times 100%, which is what? 87.5%. So Cindy ate more. It has a higher, she has a higher percentage here. All right. 71. A cake provide 19 servings. How many cakes do you need for a group of 60 students and 2 teachers? Okay. So 19 is 1 cake. 60 students and 2 teachers, I have 62. Let's find it here, X. So X would be what? 62 times 1 divided by 19. Let's see what we come up with. I got 3.26, but we need the whole cake. So we need to order 3 is not gonna be enough. It has to be 4 cakes. 72, you roll a die. What's the probability of getting a 5? Well, you know, on a die, there are 6 faces. This is a die. 1, 2, 3, 4, 6 faces. And each of them has an equal chance of happening. So it's 1 out of 6 for each of them. So in order to get a 5, the chance is 1 out of 6. 73. How many ounces are there in 8 1/4 pints? Okay. 1 pint, guys, you know, it's 2 cups. And you know that 1 cup is 8 ounces. So 1 pint is going to be how many ounces? 16 ounces. So to change from pints to ounces, you multiply by 16. So 8 1/4, you can make it 0.25 times 16. And if you do the math, it will be 132 ounces. That concludes the review. If you guys need more help, I suggest if you have a Gmail account, to establish account with khanacademy.org. It's great. And any topic you wanted help with, you can do interactive exercises, you can practice, you can watch videos. Just type in, you know, just the name of the topic that you're looking for help with, and you're gonna get tons of problems. And also, once you get admitted to the program, I like this website that has lots of useful information for future nurses. Any questions, also feel free to contact me. This is my email address, sbazi@hfcc.edu.